Hi, welcome to Rave Sensation. I'm your host, Dan. And on this episode, I am going to be talking about this new book, The New Essential Guide to Hong Kong Movies by Rick Baker and Ken Miller. And see here, it has a foreword by Jackie Chan and afterwards by Cynthia Rothrock and Vincent Lin. And the fact is, even though this is the new Essential Guide to Hong Kong Movies, it's only new when compared to the original book, The Essential Guide to Hong Kong Movies. This is from 1994, I guess it was. Where is it here? 1994, and it comes up to 1993 with the movies it reviews. It's a guide to Hong Kong movies, and it's not. It's really without knowing exactly how to put it. It's of a certain type. It's the late period wushu and old-fashioned kind of martial arts films with the very choreographed and studied motions, the da-da, kind of thing. And it kind of starts with those, and then it goes into it leans really heavily into the later things that, like, as Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest were still doing very formula, very style-driven martial arts, but they started updating it more, and it started feeling fresher and started feeling different. And then, Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung and those guys came along, and that's where it really kind of simmers in this book, is those 80s martial arts films, those 80s modern-day martial arts films. Then it goes into the heroic bloodshed, as they call it, the gun movies, like with Chow Yun-fat, John Woo directing kind of stuff, those things. And then they also cover some other, well, we'll look at the contents page. Anyway, when this first one came out, it still seemed like the sky was going to be the limit. Things were still going well for the Hong Kong film industry. The martial arts films had kind of hit a bump in the road because the heroic bloodshed films had kind of taken some of the wind out of their sails, because suddenly, it's much easier to do those gunfight scenes than to do well choreographed martial arts. I mean, not if you're John Woo, because John Woo, his gunfight scenes are so crazily choreographed in some of his movies that it was still a costly endeavor. But for most of them, the cheaper gunplay films were much cheaper. So this book, the thing about this guidebook is the films they like are ones that I liked a lot too. So if I saw a movie in here that they thought was really good, chances are it would be worth me watching too. They have a ratings guide in here, and you can see there's The Fist, and that's the martial arts. Where's how do they write what they're saying their little symbols mean? So the sword is wushu. The fist is kung fu. I think that dynamite, is that the action? Where's the little... It's been so long since I looked at this, I forget what those exactly mean. And I don't see it in here. Anyway, they mean different things. That guide, and then the numbers meant how good it was at each thing. Like, here, let's look at one. Like here it's saying this movie, The Damned, a.k.a. Bandits, Prostitutes, and Silver, rates 3 fists. So the kung fu is pretty good. It's a middle of the road movie. Dance of the Drunk Mantis has 5 fifths. Then Deadly Breaking Sword is one where it's not open hand stuff. It's more wushu kind of thing, weapons and stuff. it gets 3 swords. I guess. So that's the breakdown. They dropped that for this new updated edition. They've added some films, and you'll notice in here that all the stills are in black and white, and they're very contrasty because probably most of these were sourced from magazines or, somewhere like that. So they're not directly off the photographs. Now this is falling apart there. Doggone it. The picture gallery, a lot of this stuff looks like they took it right off the lobby cards. So there you go. Yep, that just fell apart right as I was looking at it now. So anyway, this just got printed here, 1994. 1994? What the hell? 2024. And like I said, they've dropped that rating system. We've got the reproductions of all the photos are really good. It's a larger format, which helps. And yeah, look at that. Look how good that looks. And supposedly some of these things have been rewritten, but I haven't noticed anything being especially rewritten in the ones I randomly flipped through this when I first got it and tried to compare some things. Now it's still broken down in these. Kung Fu and sword play, which are the traditional martial arts ones. Then there's a poster gallery. Then there's modern day action. Then there's heroic bloodshed crime. Those are the shoot 'ems up. Then there's erotic, fantasy, and horror, which is what a lot of people will probably be interested in. And then there's a rundown of the studios, talking a bit about the different studios and things like that. So, like I said, here's like Ashes of Time, which is an art film in disguise as a wushu film. There's a couple things like that in here. Some people are going to look at the martial arts in this, because this, even though this is this now goes up to, like I said, the other one stopped in 83. This one goes up to 1990. They haven't added things after that. And that's because that is when things really changed in Hong Kong, and there were a lot less films that would have fit this. So, if you're used to films like The Raid or even The Raid 2 or things like that, you might find these films feel a little old-fashioned and a little slow. But these are the films that inspired those. And I think the action in them is still so good. And so, the whole idea of, there is cutting, there is fake, they're movies. But they do really have a lot of contact. It's more like sports. They're doing as much contact as some sports do when they're filming their fight scenes. And some of the stunts and stuff are pretty brutal. In the Rick Baker's world, the Bruce Lee still looms large. Eastern Heroes. This was self-published under Eastern Heroes. That first one. I think this one is Rat Pack. Maybe Rat Pack's theirs too. I don't know. But Eastern Heroes was Rick's fanzine that he had in England and the UK. Um, and he's revived that as printed and orderable through Amazon. You might want to check that out if you decide you really want to get into these older films. And the reason I think people might be interested in this is because there were a lot of these things made. There's a couple of people and a couple of films that are on everyone's list, but then there's a lot of other stuff to look at. And once you get into this, there's a lot of good viewing to be had. And I think they do a good job of it. Let's go past this. $1997. Oh, so it's 1999, I guess, is when they stopped. That must be it, because here's 1997. Legend of the Wolf. See, that's kind of past that prime. Snake Fist Fighter, not one of the better ones. So anyway, the martial arts films take up a big part of this book. Here's the poster gallery. Now they also started to do some poster books, I believe. I really see. This is starting to get into the part where the posters started being a little less interesting too. I like the art ones. The ones where they relied on the photos so much, not so much. I love that art too. Warriors 2 with Yun Biao and Sammo. Great stuff. Oh. That is a great poster. So that's one of the horror movies, Bewitched. And there's Encounters of the Spooky Kind with Sammo. The success of that movie eventually led to one of my favorite movies of all time, Mr. Vampire. Early Jackie Chan, some of the bloodshed stuff. Here's the modern day action one, Angel. Really underrated because it's hard to see it in a good version. But Angel is just a dynamite. It's also known as Iron Angels. One of the best movies for female action. A tremendous movie, a lot of fun. It's got the early Cynthia Rothrock stuff, Jackie's stuff that The Dragon from Russia. So it's Dragon from Russia. Here's where it writes up, because it was based on the Japanese manga Crying Freeman. And as far as whenever the Hong Kong guys get a hold of the Japanese mangas, they usually don't do a very faithful job. This one is, it's got some elements. It's a good movie. It's worth seeing. There could be a better adaptation. I guess there's probably an anime, I believe. So the heroic bloodshed. That's where, Quentin Tarantino heavily inspired by some of those films, one in particular. Now here we go. This is the one that a lot of people will probably be interested in, the erotic fantasy and horror. Now the erotic stuff that's in here is basically, it's just not any old erotic thing. It's ones that has some really bizarre leap in them, some really crazy angle, or there's someone involved in it that also did some of the other stuff. Chinese Ghost Story is a wonderful film. This is the Battle Wizard. That has, you can't really see that, this guy goes up against a gorilla that knows kung fu. It's just some guy in a really bad ape suit, but it's pretty fun. And there's Bewitched, which is the horror movie they had the poster of. This is a really good place to look to for, this is the Boxer's Omen, incredibly popular. There was a good DVD put out of this. I'm wondering how easy it's going to be for people in the future to see them, because most of the DVDs of this stuff are out of print now. There really don't seem to be making many DVDs in Asia anymore. At least the websites I used to use don't seem to have many of the older titles anymore. At first, there were a lot of interesting things being remastered onto Blu-ray, and it was good because when they did the DVDs, a lot of times the DVDs, the early ones, still had the burnt-in subtitles, which really sucked. Then they eventually got to subtitles, but they were pretty bad, removable subs. And with Blu-ray, they were really starting to make some inroads, but I didn't have the money. I could not buy, I'd already bought the things on bootleg VHSs, then on legit VHS at some points, and then DVDs. So getting them in Blu-ray yet, how much time do I actually have to watch stuff? I need to watch new stuff too. Calamity of Snakes is a real fun movie that just got re-released. The only bad thing is there are scenes of actual snakes being killed, so I don't really recommend it to most people. Chinese Ghost Story, of course, so Crocodile Fury. So anyway, that is a look at this book. There's the Mr. Vampire. They cover. There were dozens of ripoffs of Mr. Vampire once it was a hit. They really just say, "Oh, it's good. You should go watch it. It's so good. It deserves a much bigger write-up than that. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. The Oily Maniac. There's the Oily Maniac there. And there's the Story of Ricky. That one has gotten a lot of notoriety and is, you can find that pretty easily. Super Inframan, the takeoff on the Japanese superheroes. Thunder of the Gigantic Serpent. The only bad thing about this is they list where the movies are and stuff, but they don't have a director or an actor index. And that would be kind of nice to have. So, if you decide you're a fan of, say, Amy Yip, you could look her up real easy and find those, like here's Sex and Zen with Amy. And when I talked about the erotic films, this is one of the craziest films. Like I said, it's not just a sex film, but there's a guy who decides to get a penis transplant from a horse. Figures he would enjoy life more that way. And Amy Yip's there with her. So Seventh Curse, that's a great film. Seeding of a Ghost, another great film. So yeah, if you are would like to explore that period of time, mostly 70s, 80s, and 90s, and like I said, I really think the heyday was the 80s, although some, spill over both ways. This is a great book. They since their tastes mirror mine so well, I'd say they have really good taste. And anyway, I hope you like that. And talk to you again soon.